Well, good morning, my Tisa King family. How's everybody today? Hope you're well. I am doing fine. Just one second. All right, so we see gold 5,200, and we see silver. Silver was 88, and they're doing the silver dance, so it's 80. I got 86.42 right now, but it's 10 o'clock. We look at silver. It's just doing, it was 88 at 10, and I knew it was going to go down, and because it was going so high just before 10. And this is sort of a 10 o'clock drop here, but I expect it to get back into the 87s. Where gold, not as volatile, hit 52 and is 51.91. Now, I don't expect silver to drop back into the 70s or into the low 80s. I think we're plateauing now. We're starting to hit. The only day we got to worry about is Friday when they do the mark-to-market bullshit last day of the month, which is going to happen this Friday. So that'll be the only issue. How far will it drop this Friday? But then it'll go right back up Sunday night and Monday. China is off the holiday. They might still be on it today, but it seems like it wasn't too bad. But this is a big run up at 9:30, which is confusing. Normally it drops at 9:30. It runs up on the 10 o'clock after the 10 o'clock drop. But we're, silver back to 86.72, gold right around 52. So I think what happens is there's a lot of bullshit. The Chinese guy put in all these shorts from 110 to 75. He's out of it. I think they throw him in jail. They won't allow him now. If he can only buy, he can't sell anymore. And he made $3 billion, but I don't know if he's going to have a chance to spend it in China. They'll be pretty pissed about that because he wasn't supposed to do it. And you can't fuck around in China. So the way I see it, you've had your jump and then it dropped back. And now I think when it goes up, it's not going to drop back. I think it'll just keep going. So we're seeing 5,200 gold, 51.96, 86.70 silver. Again, it's the 10 o'clock drop. So once we're at 11, we'll see it stronger. And I think what we'll see now is gold back to 5,500 on its way to 8,000. I think in March, I think we'll see it 6,000. And then silver, we've got silver at 86 on its way back to the 90s, on its way back to the hundreds. Again, it doesn't make sense because the demand for physical is huge. There is no physical supply. So why is it dropping? And I showed you Mark McGuire, I think yesterday, where they talked about this and they said, well, because the people are just like reading charts, and they see the 50-day moving average or the 200-day moving average, and they go, oh, it's dropping. It jumped up. It's too high. It's over its 100-day moving average. So we should sell it because it's too high, because they don't understand this is gold, that it's money, not that it's a stock. So the question we really need to ask is, why is everybody so fucking clueless about gold and silver? This is the real question. People in America don't get it. Most people, the Germans get it. The Chinese and the Russians, I believe, get it. The Japanese, people in Singapore, Hong Kong, I think they get it. But you have a lot of people that don't understand gold and silver. I don't know what they think or what's going through their mind, or if I think part of it is, I don't believe the dollar can crash. I don't believe this has zero value. This, I think, is their first thing. They don't understand this is down. They don't get it can go down. Well, we could just keep printing it, because idiots like Jim Rickard says, well, we can just keep printing it. And MMT people, the Keynesians that are just freaking clueless. So the way it is explained, if you even learn about it, is, well, you can just keep printing the money. They never talk gold and silver. They never say how strong it is. So they'll say, well, the money's there. Like it can't be inflated to zero. They miss the concept. And yet all we say is it's always went to zero. There's never been a money that wasn't backed by gold that didn't go to zero. Ask the French, ask the Spanish, Amsterdam, the English, the Romans, on and on and on. All the currencies went to zero, something like 500 or so, because they keep printing it, and they print it to nothing. The best, the most valuable things are the limited things, right? Why is Picasso so valuable? Because he didn't print much. He died, and you get if you get a original, there's only one. The Van Gogh over here, right? It's right there. I mean, these are very, very limited in that Van Gogh. I wish they were real, but they're not. But they, the originals are one. There's only one of, and they only made 50, 100 paintings, whatever he made. So the more limited, the more value. Well, if you understand that concept, and then you look at the dollar versus gold, the dollar is not limited. They keep printing it, because the MMT say, well, you can't destroy the currency if you keep printing. And this is what people hear, so they don't pay attention to it. Really, it's worth zero, because they're like idiots. They just hear it and they believe it. They don't dig in like we do, and we dig in and say, well, what's happening here? But that's what I do, right? I dig in and I go, what's going on? And so I question things. That's what you should be doing. That's what I'm teaching you, is question things. But if I tell it to you, question me, well, you'll see I'm right. I'm not telling you things that aren't correct about gold and silver and football and poker and everything else. So when I talk to you about gold and silver, you're learning. At that point, you're going, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So I've proven it. But when some of these guys talk, a Peter Schiff and Andy Scheckman, a Jim Rickards, Rick Rude, they don't know what they're talking about. They're trying to sell, and that's dangerous. And Alistair McLeod yesterday, we walked through 5-6 points. He was dead wrong. He doesn't know what inflation is. They keep thinking it's debasement is inflation, and it's debasement. Taking the gold and silver out of the coins is the debasement part, not out of the dollar. He thinks it's tame now, but it's going to come back, because Alistair thinks he still thinks it's prices. As I read you yesterday in my inflation log, where's my sheet? I'm missing a few pages, I think. Oh, I think it's over there. Just a second. I knew I had about 20 pages, and I'm looking at 5. So let's review our inflation. Let's see. I got one note in here that J.P. Morgan got us into World War I, and he sold weapons to both sides. This is the scumbag J.P. Morgan. And all he's done, he was in Madoff. He price fixes gold and silver. Yeah, where's that sheet? Well, it's got to be here. This is all the sheets I have. Just a second, I'll find it. Anyway, I read it yesterday. Well, it's got to be here. In which case, how did I miss it? Well, I can review it. I don't need to see it. This is wild. These are my notes. Oh, maybe it was in here. All right, just a second. No, of course, here it is. Why would I think it's in here? All right. So these pages ripped out of my notebook. This is my notebook from class, 6/1/1993. So the definition of inflation is increase in the money supply. We went through this yesterday, and it makes the value of the dollar, the purchasing power, worth less. So what is increase in the money supply? You're printing more. That's pretty obvious. Decrease in purchasing power. What is that? Well, that means it buys less than it did before. So you have a $100 bill, and then they print a bunch of them. And then the $100 bill is worth less today than it was yesterday because of printing it. So now there's more of them out there. Well, how does that make it worth less? Well, it's just there's too much. You can only have a certain amount. Once you go over that amount, then it becomes the demand goes down for the dollar, which then makes it you need more of them to buy Coca-Cola or chocolate cream pie or whatever you want to buy, the dollar value drops, right? We need more dollars. John C., good morning. And therefore, if the dollar value drops, that is what inflation is, the purchasing power. What will I be able to buy with it? So the Romans, they took the gold and silver out of their coins. So where an ounce of silver would buy, food for a month at the Appian Way, pretty soon you took half the silver out and you needed more coins to buy it. And then you eventually took all the silver out, and then you couldn't even use the silver to buy food for the month because it didn't have anything. So as you print more, the value drops, and therefore you can't buy as much. It gets decrease in the purchasing power. So the purchasing power, how much can I buy? It drops because you keep printing and printing and printing. Like now, every month they print to cover the government workers, to cover Social Security, to cover the interest on the debt, to cover the defense contractors. So as you keep printing, there's too many dollars. There's not enough buyers. So as I say, well, let's say the Mantle card, very, very hard to find a let's say the Mantle 9 I show you for, was it $70,000 for the 1965 Mantle card? Let me show you that. And why is it worth so much? And it's worth so much. Let's see what the Dow is doing today, but the Dow is fake. Now the Dow's down 800. So this is the beginning, I guess. We'll see what happens. So let's go into my little watch list. All right, so here's a Mickey Mantle PSA 9, right? 1965. So it's a legitimate card, and it looks pretty nice, pretty centered. Maybe there's some corner issues or something, and it's 60,000. All right, so let's analyze it. Why is it 60,000? Because there's probably not a lot of Mickey Mantles that are nines in 1965, right? So then there's more buyers who want the card, and so they will pay 65 for it because there's maybe, let's say, 100 buyers for it. But there might only be 50 mid-9 1965s. Again, you didn't get them graded back then. You're getting them graded, and now maybe people didn't get it graded now or whatever. I know I'm afraid to go to PSA because I'm afraid I'm not going to get the card I gave them back. Like I have that really good Montana. Well, if it's a 10, it's worth 100 grand. So I'm scared to send it in. Then I won't, they're going to see it's a 10. The guy's going to keep it. And then I end up getting another card less valuable. So it's a lot of supply and demand. As you print more dollars, you increase the supply of the dollars, but then there's too much supply. So if we look at it like this, there's too much supply of the dollars, which causes less demand because people want limited things, right? That 1/1 Eiserman I have, this Mantle card, the Joe Montana rookie, because it's a PSA 10, is 100 grand. I think I can show. Here's a second year Jordan, 32,000. It's graded a 10. This has a centering problem. So there's not a lot of these cards. even though it's not his rookie card, but the second year. But because it's a 10, it gets 32,000. So the more limited things are, the more people want it because it is limited, the more value it gets. So when the dollar gets printed, it there's too much of it out there. There's not enough demand. People tend to not want it because it's overprinted, and therefore the purchasing power drops because there's too much of it, so it doesn't carry the same value. So where $100, you see in 1971 and 72, McDonald's 50 cents for a hamburger. Well, why isn't it 50 cents now? Not only is it not the same hamburger, but because the money's different. The money's been printed and inflated, and there's too much of it, and it hurts the value. So the more you print, the less value it is, right? So that's why the Montana, there's not a lot of tens. This Jordan card, there's not a lot of tens. The Mantle card, 60,000. There's not a lot of nines for 1965 cards in the first place, but especially Mantle. Then you have the demand part of it. Is there a demand for the US dollar? Is that what's happening? Well, as people see that you're printing it and you've printed 150 trillion of it and it's not backed by gold, do you want to own it? So it becomes, what do you want based on how much there are printed? So because we know there's a lot printed, we know the value is going to go down and down and down. And so people don't want it. So, but do most people understand that? I think this is our problem. We understand that there's so much printed, it's not worth anything. And then we say, well, what is limited? And we go, oh, gold and silver. They try to push Bitcoin as it's limited to 21 million. But it's not money. I can't use it at Kroger's. However, but gold's only 200,000 tons, right? Versus 21 million, it's 200,000 tons. Now, you got to times that by 32,000 ounces in a ton, right? So, but it's still very limited. You can't make more, but it's real money. It's physical. You can hold it in your hand. Like the difference between this and Bitcoin, I can hold this in my hand. I can see it. I can touch it. I have it. I can go to the store with this. Like I said, I can go to my barbecue place, give it to him. He'll take it. Why? Because he has it. But Bitcoin, nobody knows what it is. It's not real. You can't hold it. You can't tell me what it looks like because you can't see it because it's just air. So there's no trust in that. So I think the trust that you keep printing the dollar is what the problem is, right? So as you keep printing it and printing it and printing it, thinking, well, it won't hurt the value of it. Well, you can see it gets devalued. The purchasing power drops because you increase the money supply. So by making too much, it hurts the value because it's too easy to get. I don't know. You see it at the grocery store when they get a million apples in and they put them on sale for 99 cents. Well, why? Because we have too many and there's not enough demand for all these. So people will come in and buy them at the sale price so we can sell them. We can get rid of them. You see it with meat. You see all the sales at the grocery store. They got a lot in or they can't sell them or they need money. So they put a big item on sale with the intent of people will buy that item. We need that item sold. We have too much. It's getting old. So why does too much money printing cause the value of the dollar to drop? That is the question that people just don't understand. They don't correlate printing the money equals losing value of the money. And it's just because there's too much of it, it can't keep its value because I'm trying to think of a good explanation for this, although we know it's right. Like I said, the things that are more limited, let's just put it, this Mantle card, let's say there's 1,000 people that want a Mint 9 and maybe there's 500 of them, and that's why it's 60,000. But if we go to the like 1990 hoops, Michael Jordan, there's so many of them. There's not as much demand. So the demand dwindles, and therefore the price dwindles. Oh, there's a million of those 1990, Skybox Jordans that'll never get to 60,000 unless there's more demand than supply. But there's so many made in the Skybox and the hoops 1990, it has no value. However, in this flare card, it wasn't a lot made, but then you look at it and there's not a lot that are centered. I know I have a lot of these cards. They're very hard to get nicely centered. Probably a 10. Well, this is a 10. They're few and far between. So the fact that it's limited makes it. Now, again, we're talking two different things. We're talking a card that's, and then there's buyers for it. And then this gets massively printed. Is there less demand for the dollar? I say that's where it's confusing because no, I mean, everybody wants the dollar. Everybody, I want $1 million. But you can see how many billionaires there are now because the dollar really has no value. So the fact you're a billionaire is kind of meaningless. I mean, when we were growing up, in the 80s, in the 90s, there was no millionaires. And, I'm watching bowling, right? In the 1970s, Mark Roth and Marshall Holman, I was just watching. And, the winner, they're showing like the top 25 who were in the tournament. And the bottom guys are making $900. The 15th place guy made $900. But it was a lot. You could buy a lot with it. Now that would probably be equal to $90,000. Right? So to try to answer this question, why printing money loses value, it's just there's too much of it out there. The demand doesn't keep up with the supply. Even though everybody would want the money, there's too much of it out there. It loses value. It's a hard quandary to put out there, but we know the more that gets printed, the less it's worth. The biggest I can come up with is like going and getting a steak, and you eat the first steak and it's good, and then there's a second steak and you eat that and it's not as good as the first steak, but okay. But by the third steak, you don't want it anymore, right? Your demand for the third steak after eating the first two are not there. Probably you're full, but probably you're like, okay, I've had that. Let me go on. And so I think that you have that issue. And so I just think they print too many dollars. It loses value. The demand probably drops. It's too easy to get. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think that that's the problem. But with gold and silver, again, the attraction is people know it's limited. So the question is well, why printing more loses value? And then so the third effect of inflation is increase in the general price level. So the prices go up because it takes more dollars to buy tuna fish because the dollar loses its purchasing power. So now I need, instead of $1 for tuna, I need $2 for tuna. That's the best way I can explain it, but how many people understand that? So that's what inflation is. You printed the money, too much of something loses value, and then it takes more of those to buy the product, right? The price level goes up because the dollar is worth less, basically. But you're not necessarily going to see these huge prices. You might, but I think the market controls that. The market says, no, I'm not going to pay $20 for a steak. So the steak sits at $10 or $15. Maybe eventually it gets to 50, but nobody's going to buy it. So nobody understands this concept except for us, okay? So nobody realizes the dollar has no value. And if nobody realizes the dollar has no value, why would I buy gold and silver? Because the key element in buying gold and silver is you can't increase the supply. The supply comes out of the ground. You can't print it, you can't counterfeit it. It's only what's out of the ground, and then it goes to the refiners and they make it into nice little coins or bars, right? So with that, then we understand that. We understand if they keep increasing the money supply, the dollar's going down. So we stop right there and we say, well, what are we going to do? Hold our money until it has no value? Or we're going to get out of the dollars, Rumpelstiltskin it, and then what do we go into? Something very limited. Oh, this Jordan card. Oh, this Mantle card, the Montana rookie, or gold or silver. Preferably gold and silver because it is money. It's easier to exchange for it. So people don't realize gold and silver can't be printed and is very limited and is money and is worth, as you can see, it's going up 5,200 today. 80 back to 87 dollar silver, right? It just blew through 75, 78, 80, 83, 87, and it just keeps blowing through. We get confused when we see it drop. We go, why is it dropping? It just went up. And that's a lot of because these idiots are going, oh, it's over its 50-day moving average. I'm going to short it. Because again, this is the paper market. And our bitch is, well, in the physical market, gold isn't moving anywhere. It's still going up. In the paper market, they're controlling it with options. But so the biggest problem is people not realizing the dollar is being printed and is losing value. The increase in the money supply causes a decrease in purchasing power. There's too much of it out there. But people don't understand, how can there be too much money? You give me 100, I'll take it. And that's where it gets kind of screwy. But then what they don't realize is what you do with the 100. So you have 100, it doesn't spend now as it did in the 70s. So now the government says, well, inflation's 2%, it's 3%. And people are it's out of their range of what it is. So, we'll rely on the government and say, oh, it's only 2 or 3%. Well, it's fairy tale, because to correctly do it, you go back to 1971. House was 4,500, it's now 45,000. How is that 2%? Well, the government said it's year over year. No, it isn't. So that's the other problem, right? So people don't really understand what inflation is in the first place. Then you got chuckleheads like Alistair McLeod saying, well, it's debasement. They don't even know what they're talking about. And then they say, well, prices could go up. Again, no, it's money. He does get it's not it's the money going down, but he misses gold and silver in that. Well, the money went down, so gold went up the same amount that money went down, which is totally ridiculous. Right now, why is gold up 100? Is the dollar down 100 today? Gold's up to 5,200. Is that because the dollar went down? No, it's irrelevant. Gold's up because the demand, because people like us who realize you printed too much of the dollar is losing value. Decrease in the purchasing power. So whatever I have, I can buy less with. However, my gold and silver go up. So kind of what they're trying to say is, well, even though the dollar drops, the gold will hold the purchasing power. The gold's purchasing power does not go down. However, what they miss is the value of the 5,200 in gold is based on the demand of the market, bricks, and people wanting gold and silver because it's limited. And therefore, because it's not, because the supply doesn't increase, the price goes up. Where in the dollar, the supply increases, making everything worth less. So how do you present this to people so they understand it? Most people, as we watch those idiot videos, they don't want to know. They hear somebody say it, and they go, oh, okay, that's what's happening. So they don't even realize that the dollar is being printed and the supply is increasing and the purchasing power is decreasing. They don't get that. They go to the grocery store, which is really their point of thought, and they see the prices going up and they blame the prices going up, not that the dollar is worth less. And this is the big problem. So if people aren't going to buy gold and silver with their dollars, they're going to be caught off guard. They're going to be in big trouble because their dollar is not going to, doesn't buy anything. Then you have, well, I'm in stocks. Well, you're still in dollars or Bitcoin or real estate trust, or I'm in real estate. I bought a house. I got land. I'm in the stock market, real estate trust. It doesn't matter. It's all in dollars. It's all valued in dollars. And if the value of the dollar is dropping and the purchasing power is going down, that $500,000 house you bought is also, that price is going down. But people won't, the source is the money supply increasing, but they won't understand it. Oh no, Kroger's, Oreo cookies went up. It's now $6 for the thing, or my Fruity Pebbles are more, or my Coca-Cola's more, and they won't take it back to it's the dollar that's the cause. They just think it's General Mills they raise prices, not that the dollar went down. And so even though you can show them the prices going up, people won't understand it. So that's really the big bulk of it, is they print too much, and they print every month because every month they don't have enough money to pay all the government employees and the ones that retire their pensions. They don't have enough for the interest on the debt. They don't have enough for Social Security and Medicare, and they don't have enough for the defense contractors. So we have to print every month. We tried doing treasuries and selling them to the Chinese and the Russians and the rest of the world, but they're not interested because we printed too many dollars, so the value's down, so the value of the bond's down, and therefore, if they give us $10 million for bonds, they're worth $5 million now. So they're losing, and they're smart enough to know they're losing. So they're dumping them and saying, we're getting out of it. We're just going to buy gold. It's a much better investment than in your treasuries. And so if you do too much printing, you kill the value. Again, I assume it's just like if you got, you made 5 slab of ribs, it's just not as valuable as 1 slab of rib. So it's hard to say why. I'll try looking this up. But if you have too much money, it does hurt the value. That we can't, that's a fact, right? But it's a little confusing. It's like the gold price. The real gold price is here and COMEX is here. But in most things, it's the other way around. The market's here. As the demand goes up, the market goes up. So it's kind of counter, right? The more demand for an item, for this mantle card, if there's more demand for it, if the price goes up to 70 grand. In gold, there's more demand, but they're holding the price down. So if the free market took over for gold and silver, the high demand would push the price 5,200, 55, 10,000, 20,000. And that's why I say it, because I'm sure the demand is much higher. But right now you don't have people understanding the dollar. So therefore, if they don't understand the dollar, that it's going down and losing its value, why would they get into gold and silver? They don't know. They haven't been introduced to gold and silver. It's like this really pretty girl who's sitting here, but nobody knows she's sitting here. She stays in and reads. Nobody knows it. They haven't discovered her yet. So they haven't discovered gold and silver yet. They don't know that this is really this is the key to surviving. Because by holding your money, well, I got it in stocks and I got 500,000 in stocks, so I'll be okay. And it's like, what are you talking about? Your stock isn't worth anything. It's priced in dollars. Well, Amazon's worth $200 a share, and I got 100 shares. So I'm fine. I got plenty of money tied up in that. Okay. But again, it's in money. So if you sell your shares and you get $200,000, but the dollar's collapsing, the dollar has no value. It's being increased. The purchasing power is dying. So even though your stock's worth 200 grand, it's in dollars, not in gold and silver, and therefore it drops. The same as Bitcoin. It's in money. So even if it's 60,000, well, I got 60,000. Okay, and then you what? You got to pull it in, you got to sell it, you got to put it into your bank account, but the purchasing power of the dollar is going down. So that's why I say we're on the Titanic. It doesn't matter if you're in um, stocks, bonds, real estate, Bitcoin, you own a building, you own a house. It doesn't matter because it's all priced in dollars and the purchasing power is sinking. And so when the boat goes down, everything in dollars goes down. And that's what's happening now. And there's nothing they can do to stop it because they don't even know what's happening. They're never going to stop spending because that's how they buy votes. It's a real stupid thing, the way the elections work. Instead of doing what's right. So if I run for president, I said, well, I'm gonna cut all these programs and I'm gonna cut the supply of money and I'm gonna bring us with gold and silver. I'd never get elected, even though I'm gonna save everybody. They won't. They just say, well, wait, you're cutting my Social Security $10, or you're cutting my, welfare $10. Um, you're cutting I'm going to have to lay off all these government workers. I'm going to have to get rid of the Department of Education because they're a bunch of idiots. But how would I win? Because people want the free stuff. They're better off if I do that and then I don't have to spend and I can balance the budget and I can get us out of dollars and get us into gold. And that's the key. But the public is stupid. They don't understand. They're not taught gold and silver. That's the problem. So nobody really understands it because I was taught it. I do. And I share that with you. So you understand it because I was taught it and I'm helping you. So now you understand it. So when Bobby's daughter says, why are we buying gold and silver? We can't spend it at the grocery store. He can give an answer. Well, the dollar's not worth anything. The only thing now is you sell, quarter ounce of gold or 5 ounces of silver and you get cash to pay bills or to go on a trip or something. It's a quick use. You sell it for that, but you keep in mind, you don't want to sell too much of it because you can't get it back. As it goes higher, I mean, I'm buying it at 1900, but now it's 5,000. So if I sell it for 50, well, it's 5,200 now. If I sell it for 5,200, how am I going to buy it back? It goes to 6,000. I got to get 6,000 to buy the ounce back that cost me 1,800 for. So that's why, and you don't want to sell a lot of it because, okay, let's say you sell half of your stack. You got 100 ounces, you sell 50. Well, you're screwed because you'll never get that 50 back and the value is going to go up. And the money that you're buying it with is losing value because they're increasing the money supply. So the definition of inflation, number one, increase in the money supply never stops. They keep increasing the money supply. They increased it for the petrodollar. They increased it for these FX transactions to buy the petrol from Saudi Arabia, which no longer exists. Now, anybody can buy from Saudi Arabia, so you don't need to get dollars. So all this money supply is coming back, but they print the money every month to pay for the debt, to pay for, like I said, the employees, the Social Security, Medicare, and the defense. So that they keep increasing the money supply. So the decrease in the purchasing power never stops. And that's really the lesson to learn here is they're not going to stop increasing the money supply. They're not going to stop decreasing the purchasing power, which means the increase in the general price level will keep going up because it takes more dollars to buy the food, the clothing, the trips, the hotel, your things. And so knowing that, They're never going to stop it. They can't stop it. And that's the trouble. So that's the inflation that Alistair McLeod apparently doesn't understand that concept. And so most people aren't taught it. Why? Because the government doesn't want you to know that they're fucking things up. This is the first thing you should be taught in seventh grade or sixth grade. When you talk money, people do listen. That's the sweet spot, right? Um, that's why people do things that are illegal because they don't have to pay tax on it. And they can make a lot of money doing it. But they don't realize is that the money is going to keep printing and going to keep losing value. And the prices, it'll take more dollars to buy. And that's why you see silver going from 25 to now 87 because they keep printing, right? They keep printing the money. And the only way to stop it is what BRICS is doing, which is backing it by gold. If it's backed by gold, you can't increase the money supply. That's the beauty of gold, the gold standard. I got $1 million worth of gold. I print $1 million. I can't print a nickel more. So you do not have the increase in the money supply with the gold standard. That's why the gold standard is the best. You can't keep increasing the money supply. However, all these crooks in government and these bankers who want to run everything, they don't like it because they can't keep printing. So on these idiots, Jim Rickards, we can keep printing and nothing will happen. He's an idiot. It just shows you he's an idiot. Increasing the money supply lowers the thing. But he doesn't understand that. It goes right over his head. And so people think we can just keep printing. And that's what the banks do. Well, we'll just keep printing. We'll just make more. We'll make money out of thin air. How do you do that? You can't do it with the gold standard. So you go get a loan on a house, they just print the money out of thin air, and then you're going to charge me interest. You just printed it out of thin air. So again, every time you buy a house and a car and it's a loan, boom, they print money out of thin air, and it increases the supply of money and it decreases the purchasing power. That's a given. The money supply is going to keep increasing. The purchasing power is going to keep decreasing. So it'll take more dollars to buy anything. Shirts, pants, cantaloupes. I see cantaloupes now for like $4. I just shake my head. And occasionally you'll get them on sale, but apples went to $2.50. Now I'm starting to see them back at $1.25 because nobody's paying $2.50, which is my point about the market. Yeah, the dollar's losing value. The purchasing power is going down. But again, then we got to charge $4 for apples. And the market says, no, you won't. We're not going to pay. So then you got to lower your price, even though the purchasing power value is down. You can't just raise the price. So that's the problem when I have with an Alistair talking about it's the money going down, not the gold going up. The gold's going up because of the demand and the dollar's purchasing power, it's basically gone. You've printed so much that it has no value. That's what I'm saying to him. Look, there's no value left in your dollar. So what do you mean the dollar's losing value? They've been printed so much, there is no value. With the petrodollar gone and the FX currency down, there's nothing left. The dollar's worthless, and well, I can still go to Kroger's and spend it, but it's worthless. It's like what Hitler did. He made these fake dollars to build his tanks and cars and planes and everything, and his weapons and his artillery. And then he had to feed the men and, get them all nice little black uniforms and brown uniforms. So people will still take this even though it has no value. They'll raise the prices a little bit up to the market, but that'll be it. But with gold and silver, you're not near where, they're not letting it rise to where it should be. And I don't know why, but it's not correlated to the dollar's value. Gold and silver are just like an asset, like the Jordan card and the Mantle card. They're not going up when the dollar drops. They go up because of demand. And that's what's happening with gold and silver now. It's going up because of the demand by BRICS and us and people like us who are realizing it. And we're buying 50 ounces here and 50 ounces there. That's the key to it. And so that's the whole point. It's they you can't print the gold and silver, so the silver and gold supply never go up, which means it never gets the value. But because the dollar keeps dropping, the gold and silver go up because as people realize the dollars keeps getting printed and losing its value, you run into gold and silver, but it's not correlated. That's the prime reason is the dollar's worthless. But the real fact is, wait a minute, I'm going into gold and silver because you can't print it. It can't lose its purchasing power. And the dollar is, but it's not a correlation of, oh, the purchasing power of the dollar went down $10, so gold and silver went up $10. It doesn't work like that. A asset goes up because of the demand for the asset. Now, the initial is created because of the inflation, but it's not correlated. And just like this gold silver ratio that people talk about, well, it could be 10 to 1 or 15 to 1 or 5 to 1. It has nothing to do with it. It's strictly there's demand for gold, there's demand for silver. There's more silver than gold, so you think it should be cheaper. But if the demand is much higher, then silver could be more expensive than gold because you have the industrial demand and the money demand versus gold's just money. It's too expensive to use industrial. So there's no correlation in the ratio. I mean, you could do the ratio, but it's not correlated. Well, it's going to be 10 to 1. Well, you have no idea. It doesn't matter. It's based on demand. We know there's more supply of silver than gold, but how much more demand is there for silver than gold? And if it's more than that differentiation of the gold silver supply, then silver could be more expensive than gold. It would be hard because in the same situation, if they were both the same price, they're both 10,000, I would buy gold because it is more limited than silver, right? So if it's even, I'm buying gold. Like now I'm buying more silver because silver is so much cheaper. Silver at 87 and gold at 5,200. I'm probably going to buy the gold and the silver if I have the money. But now, if you don't have them, you got a few hundred out. My birthday's coming up. I'll probably buy a few ounces of silver because I can't afford a few ounces of gold, basically. So that's really the key to it. Plus, I don't see gold. My guy, I don't see him with gold, and yet he always has these little silver bullions around. Now, as I explained yesterday, the government says, well, if you get a capital gains, it's 28%. So they want their cut. It's sort of like winning the lottery or winning the World Series of poker. All of a sudden, the government's there going, give me my cut. I don't get it. I don't get how they're entitled to anything. You make 10 million at the World Series of poker. Why do you give them 40% of it goes to the government? What is that? And yet people just, oh yeah, I know I got to pay the government the tax. I don't know what these foreigners do. I assume they have to pay it too. Like Aussie guy, he lives in Australia, but I would imagine he had to pay the tax, or they just take the tax from his check. Well, here's 10 million. We're going to take 4 million away because we got to pay tax. Leaves just 6 million. So the government's trying to get in on it since gold and silver are going up. It's a 28% tax rate. However, that's not correct. If you make 50,000 or less, you don't pay any tax. Even if it's a capital gain, there's no tax. If you make 530,000 single, 620,000 married, you only pay 15%. It's only 28% if you make more than 600,000, and instead of paying 20, you pay 28. So you don't pay 28 if you make 50,000 and you're in the 0% bracket, you're not paying the thing. So keep that in mind when you retire and you're getting Social Security and you're not working, you're not making any income. That's a good time to do the capital gains. But again, we're not buying the silver and gold to sell to make profit. We sell an ounce or two, sort of like when I listen to these retirement shows on the radio, they say, well, you'll have stocks when you retire, and you're going to sell, you're going to get your dividends, and that's what you're going to live on. So, you're in Coca-Cola and Disney, you're in these big dividend stocks, and you sell the dividends, and then you're over here, you're in other stocks that are still making money. What happens when the stock market crashes? How do you retire with no money and no dividends, and you're fucked, right? But in gold and silver, that's the point of it. So you would sell an ounce of silver to pay your rent and survive as you would sell your stock or take your dividend. So this is some insurance. If you die, here's an ounce of gold, pays for the funeral, pays, here it is for the family, right? Here's 5 ounces of gold. The family survives fine, especially when it really starts hitting. Right now, it's only 5,200. Wait till it hits 20,000. People will shit their pants when gold hits 20,000 and silver hits 2,000. And they're going to be like, shit, I knew I should have bought it. I was in stock. I was in Bitcoin. Oh my God, what a stupid, that's why I tell people, if, my friend, $500,000 401k says, why don't you sell 200 or 300,000 of it and buy gold and silver with it? Just humor me. And then that's going to go up. Your stocks are going to drop. The market's going to crash. And then when that happens, you're going to be great. But there's no risk because they're always going to increase the money supply. They have to. And they're always going to get a decrease in the purchasing power. So if they always print money every month, and it's always going to create a decrease in the purchasing power, how would you stay in money? At what point what are you thinking? So this is why BRICS has gone to a gold-backed currency. Russia, China, India. This is why they're buying gold and silver hand and foot. They've figured this out. They understand what I'm teaching you right now. The increase in the money supply is killing the purchasing power. They understand that, and they know the only lifeboat is gold and silver. So if you understand that, that's why they're buying that's why China owns 80,000 tons and Russia's 20, and Putin's swimming pool, and he's got a gold train, and he's got gold in his houses. He's got 4 or 5 houses. So Putin understands it, and India understands it, Saudi Arabia, the sheiks understand it. So they are buying the shit out of it. And that's probably why you see the price not move that much in COMEX. They keep doing these options they're shorting them just to keep the price down, and then they buy all the gold and silver cheap, and they don't care about the shorts. Oh yeah, we owe, but who cares? And that's why we get frustrated, because we know this and we understand they're going to keep printing and the purchasing power is going to keep going down. That's not going to stop. It'll never stop until they come out with gold-backed currency. It's the only out, but they won't do it because all the bankers and the mafia want to keep printing money, but they don't understand if they do that, they're killing the money on the other side, because they're Keynesians, they're not Austrians, they don't get it. They don't understand Say's law, they don't understand anything. This is just the inflation definition, and you hear most of these people, Alistair McLeod, he calls it the basement. Even Mark McGuire calls it the base. They don't understand that's what the inflation is. Money printing, ruining the value, making it, you need more dollars to buy tuna fish. They don't get that whole concept. It's missed. How is it missed? I don't know. These are bankers and stockbrokers. They're not economists. And that's where my bitch is. When a Jim Rickard says, oh, we can keep printing and nothing will happen, it's like, you're the dumbest guy I've ever seen in my life. Of course, something's going to happen. Of course, the value is going to go down. Of course, that'll make prices go up because it takes more dollars to buy it. I mean, it's just simple. This is a very ABC. If you're playing poker, this is about as ABC as you can get. ABC poker is, I got a hand, I bet. If I don't have a hand, I fold. That's what you're doing here. This is, if you print money, it loses value and it takes more to buy goods and services. Very, very simple. But most people don't understand it. Um, they don't get the price in. Oh, it's the company. They're gouging. The companies are gouging us, asking for more price. Well, not really. Um, but certain ones, we can substitute. New York strips are too expensive. We go buy T-bones. We buy pork. What's the cheapest steak? And we buy it because steak, basically. Or we go buy chicken instead. I caught chicken on sale. I went to my grocery store and they had the big chicken breast, and they've been up to like $3-4 a pound, and they were back to like $1.95. So I bought like three of them, going, well, no, I'm going to eat them. I'll just buy them, put them in the freezer. I don't think the grocery stores will go out, depending, as long as they can get food. And again, they can get Argentinian beef. That's why you see me sometimes. I put on my thumbprints of my videos. I'll show you. So I was in Amsterdam, and they keep posting Argentina beef. So let me show you. So this is an Argentine steakhouse in Amsterdam, right? But here, this is the menu. Sometimes I post this. El Argentino restaurant. So as long as the grocery stores can buy the beef here, let's see if I can read any. It was weird because it's like, here's a sirloin steak, 200 grams, 18.90. The second one, if it's 300 grams, it's 26.90, and if it's 400 grams, it's 34.90. So based on the size, you can get the sirloin steak. There's a rump steak. There's a filet, $24. There's a ribeye. So you can see, and they're all Argentinian beef. Well, if we get to that, so this is the steakhouse that I did that from. So if you're ever in Amsterdam, they got very good. It's very tasty. And then you have this, where the girls don't know what they're doing because they're still charging $50, but the dollar's worthless. They should be charging 100 because of the inflation, but I doubt they realize that. And there's just a look of Amsterdam. It's a lot of bikes. It's a small city. If you have the bike, it's very small. And then this is a bank, and this is in Lviv in the Ukraine. So they would show you the U.S. dollar. So to the Ukraine, it was 27.10 to buy, 27.28 to sell. In the euro, and the Polish, and the Great Britain pound, and Canadian, and Swiss, Aussie, the Huffs, Hungarian, Czechoslovakia, Switzerland, and Russia with the ruble. And so that you see in the Ukraine or Russia, you tend to see that kind of stuff where you don't see it here. You never see, here's the euro, here's the British pound, here's this, here's that. Because Europe, there's so many different countries you keep going to. So that's the key, right? So you can substitute. So as long as Kroger's can get steak from Argentina, they're going to carry it, right? And so I know they get stuff from Chile and Mexico, avocados from Mexico and Chile, grapes. I see grapes from Chile or whatever. So they'll be able to get food in, and as far as I know, the farms aren't going anywhere. The farmers aren't going anywhere. Britain put this huge tax on the farmers, so all the farmers stopped producing in England. England's in a big hurt. Again, they don't get the base concept. Increase in the money supply is inflation, which causes the purchasing power to go down. They're all increasing money supply because nobody's on gold. So when I tell you every currency in the world is going to zero, this is why they keep increasing the money. They all have too big a government. They all have the retirement they got to pay. They all have the debt. They're all big in debt, and they all have the defense contractors or the military. So it's the same in every country. So every country is printing more money, and every country is going with the increase in the money supply, which is decreasing the purchasing power. That's just ABC. That's as sure as I'm breathing in air. That's what's happening there. So when I tell you that gold should go to the moon because every country's doing this, and when they wake up, everybody will run to gold and silver. And that's the frenzy that I'm talking about when we see the Titanic and near the end, the boat's sinking and everybody's running for the lifeboat. And as everybody sees this, they're going to run to the lifeboat, which is gold and silver is the lifeboat for money. And that's what you're going to see. And that's the whole key to it. Every country's doing it now. Zimbabwe did go to a gold-backed currency because they kept printing their money, losing the purchasing power. The prices went up, so they came up with Zimbabwe number 2, Zimbabwe number 3. The ruble are on their 8th. I'm sure the yuan in China is on their 5th or 6th. Japan, Germany, well, the euro probably 2nd or 3rd. The British pound, I know that went out in 1991, but they didn't learn the lesson. Is the British pound controlling the US? I don't know. I think they are, but why is the British pound worth more than the dollar when they're broke? They're having riots in Britain. They're having riots in France. They don't like what the government's doing and all this immigration. I don't really get the immigration. They're just handing them money, putting them up at hotels for free, feeding them. But then the rest of the population is starving because we're not going to help them. We're helping the immigrations. I assume it's for votes, but I don't even know how you vote in an election anymore. I don't know how you take any government guys seriously. They're all a bunch of losers. Any congressman or senator in the U.S. is on the take. They get the lobbyists for the defense contractors pays them $1 million, and they do whatever they want. Well, you're not governing. You're basically just a slave to the lobbyist who works for the defense contractors. So our country's following the defense contractors. That's why we're at war at every fucking country. A lot of it's because we're bankrupt. So they know we're bankrupt. The $39 trillion debt, how can you pay that back when you got to keep printing money? So print $39 trillion and try paying it back. You can't, because that will kill the value of the 39 trillion you print will make the dollar worth like a penny. And nobody's going to want it. So Trump's going, well, we'll kill the currency. We'll print it to death. And then we'll pay the 39 trillion in debt with this currency. Well, that's what I told you that the Germans did in 1923. That's what caused the hyperinflation. They owed for World War I, so they started printing and to pay off the debt that they owed the other countries. So when World War I ended, Germany was responsible to pay losses for some reason, which I never understood. All it did was upset Hitler, and that's how you got Hitler to power. But so then they printed, we'll print, however, $20 trillion, whatever we owe, which made their values worthless. Here comes the wheelbarrows. So when it really gets bad, we'll open a wheelbarrow rental store and sell wheelbarrows because people are going to need it to go to Kroger's because their money won't be worth anything. Again, this is your out. So we give you the out. Will you listen? Will you understand? Or are you going to bitch at us? You can't take silver to Kroger's and buy food. Okay, how much longer are you going to take this to Kroger to buy food? Right? It's ending soon. I can't give you a date. I don't know the date. It's not posted. July 4th. But that's the point. So if you don't understand that, that's why you get into gold and silver. That's why silver went from $20 to now 87 today. And gold went from roughly 1,700 to now 5,200. And it's just going to keep going. because the formula is we're going to increase the money supply. That's never going to end. And then we're going to decrease the purchasing power of the money. That's never going to end. So Alistair, I showed you yesterday, says, well, somebody's got to take the reins and do something about it. There's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is back your money by gold. If the money's not backed by gold, it's worthless. You'll always decrease the purchasing power. This is why you need gold-backed currency it will not increase the money supply and will not decrease the value. However, people want to print a lot of it. They want to go to war or whatever they need. They need more money. And then, so if you're on gold, you can't print it. That's why we got off the gold standard. 1968, they went to this Vietnam War and the welfare state, and they started giving out welfare. Well, they didn't have the money. Now, one way out would have been to make gold worth $1,000 an ounce. Then they could have printed more money because the value of the gold would have went up. So I really never understood why they kept gold at $35 an ounce and why they're trying to push it down now. They should make it go up and then back the money by gold. Then they can still have their little wars and they can get out of the debt by making it. So people think, well, we got 8,000 tons of gold in Fort Knox. If you do, then pull it out and make it worth 100,000 an ounce, and then you get out of your $39 trillion in debt. Or go buy $39 trillion of Mantle and Jordan and Tom Brady cards. I mean, that's you got to buy a real asset. That's why you own real assets. That's why I show you the cards, the Rolex watches, the paintings, the gold and silver. Those are physical, real assets that are very limited, that can't be printed. And so if you can't print them, you can't increase the supply and lose it. So there's like 89 Pro Set Barry Sanders rookie cards. They're not worth anything because they made 1 million of them. And therefore, the value of the card is nothing. The 89 scores worth the most because those were perceived limited, but we don't know how limited they were. And that's the point. So when I show you the Mantle card and I show you the Jordan card, so when I show you the 60,000, it's a 1965 card. You can't make any more of those. In mint condition, PSA 9 is mint. There's very few of those. That's where it's getting the value. They're still limited, and the demand is huge for Mantle, not necessarily for Don Word, who played for the Tigers, Mickey Stanley, Jim Northrup, Norm Cash. They're not going to give you 65,000. They're going to give you maybe 650. And that's why we focus in on Mantle and Mays and Hank Aaron and Koufax and Clemente and Bob Gibson. That's why you focus on those guys. Johnny Bench, Pete Rose that's why you focus on them, because there's huge demand for them. People still love that Mantle. That's the problem with baseball and most sports now. Football's got Mahomes and Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers still. But baseball has nobody. There is nobody. There's no Mantle. There's no Mays. There's no Koufax. God knows there can't be a pitcher because they can only pitch 5 innings. So if Scooble's your best pitcher, you're in big trouble because he's basically a pussy. Oh, my arm hurts. I pitched 6 innings. I pitch 90 pitches. I gotta go take a break. It's just too damn hard for me. And that's the problem. Sandy Koufax, you couldn't get him out of a game. Bob Gibson, you ever tried to take him out of a game in the World Series in the 8th or 9th inning against the Tigers in '68? You think he's coming out of the game? He'd have thrown the ball at the manager and he'd have beamed him. He'd have said, "I'm coming out of the game." So this is the point. You don't have the superstar that you want to watch. You don't have the demand. There's no player that there's a demand to watch in baseball now. In basketball, I don't think there's too many. That's a weird league anyway. In hockey, I was just watching the highlights of the U.S. Canadian gold medal game. I didn't know any players on either team. I was like, Hughes, who's Hughes? He scored the winning goal. Never heard of him. We have a guy comes on here once in a while. What was it? Anthony Walker or something like that. And I asked Bobby, is he one of your friends? He said, no, I never heard of him. So you need demand for things to be valuable, right? It can be limited, but there must be demand. You must have both. Mantle, limited and demand. Brady, Montana, Michael Jordan. But you get into it now, there's no baseball player that I'm going to watch. I do not like Ichiro. He got caught gambling, and then it's my interpreter. What kind of bullshit is that? The interpreter's got millions of dollars to bet. What, can I have a job as an interpreter making millions of dollars? I'll learn Japanese. I already know English. So this is the problem, and this is the key to things. The biggest problem that goes into business is there must be demand at the right price. That's business. I want a Toyota. Okay, so it's got to be a nice Toyota. So the demand for it, but it's got to be 25,000. Oh, you made it 35,000. Too much. There's no demand for 35,000. The demand, that's where I bought mine at 25. That's where the demand is at 25. So you make it 35, there's no demand. This is why businesses fail. They don't get it. They raise their prices because they see the decrease in the purchasing power of the money, and they go, oh, I'm going to raise my prices. The market won't allow you. The market's the one that dictates the price. If everybody likes the barbecue chicken, and you make it $25 if people will pay it, but won't. They'll so much. I just went to the barbecue last week, and they raised the half barbecue chicken from $14.99 to $15.99. I caught that. Now the dollar increase isn't enough to get it. Now, if you start making it $20 for the barbecue chicken, yeah, I'm not going to pay that. Just like Chinese food, they went up. The General Chow went from like $11 to $15, and I thought that was pushing it. But okay, but if you go to 20, and I told the owner, I says, you push it anymore, you'll have nobody here. People are on budgets. They enjoy it, but there's a point that they will demand it. There's a price that they will say no. And this is why business fails. McDonald's wants to charge $10 for a burger. It ain't going to happen because your meat isn't even real. I go to Coney Island for dinner once in a while. It's $7.25 for a nice half-pound hamburger. God knows what's in it. God knows how it's made, but it's $7.25. Okay, versus Big Boy I was at, and they were $14.99 for it's a double. It was like two patties, a bun, two patties. So with that, they want $14.99. I bet it's not even a half pound. They're way overpriced. So again, it's demand for the meal, but you got to keep it at a right price. Teaser King, I could make it $1,000 a week for my picks because they're that good, but I wouldn't get any customers, right? I got to keep it at 100. I get customers, right? But if I make it 500, I'm not going to get any. Maybe I'll get one or two, but maybe it'll be reverse psychology. Oh, if he can charge 500, he must be really good. I'll pay the 500. Oh, but he only charges 100. How good can he be? And that's another story that I've explained is how I pick the games and why I pick so many games, because I basically analyze each game and I problem solve them. Problem solving is the key. I've been talking about that lately. So we problem solved inflation. What is it? It's printing the money supply, too much money supply, making the value drop, making the purchasing power go down. So that's that's problem solving. And then so that's the problem is the money gets printed, it loses value, and then the solution is gold and silver. Very easy, but we do that in everything. Do it in poker. You do it. What if I got aces and I bet a lot? Well, will people stay in the hand? Only if they have other cards. So aces will get called by kings or queens, or maybe the 10 jack of diamonds, a pair of sixes. But if nobody has anything, it doesn't matter what I bet. I can bet 20. I probably won't get called. Maybe I'll get called by a small connector. But if somebody has kings, they're going to call me no matter what I put it on. So that's problem solving is what do I do? How much do I bet? How do I play the hand, slow or fast? Um, so the size of the bet, I want to keep the guy in. That's why when the guy goes all in, you're pretty much looking at a bluff, except I've been watching high stakes poker and I'm noticing these guys will bet like 100,000 with a good hand to protect it. So now there's a little different. The cash games, the big bets are protection. Well, two spades on the board. I got aces. I'm betting 100,000, and they have the hand, right? They want you to fold. In tournaments, they bluff with the all in. They want you to fold on the bluff, but in the real game, the big bet is I have it and I want you to fold because I don't want you to catch it. I know I'm away. I'm ahead. I'm trying to protect my hand. So there's depends what you're playing, cash game or not. When I play in a cash game, more than likely, I do make a big bet. I don't go all in. I very rarely go all in unless I've got the full house and somebody comes over the top and makes it 120. Then I will push the 300 in because I know he's got a hand, but I know I got the aces full house. I'm not losing. So anyway, it's all problem. So it's all what is the problem? So identifying the problem, and then how do you solve the problem? And in inflation, you solve it by gold and silver. But again, people don't even know what inflation is. They keep hearing its prices going up. It's not. It's the money supply going up and the value of the money going down. That's what inflation is. But nobody wants to say that except for yours truly. They'll just say prices. I heard Alistair yesterday. Well, inflation could come back. What do you mean it could come back? It didn't go anywhere. It's still here. Well, the prices aren't because that's not the inflation. The inflation is the devalue of the dollar. That's the inflation. So it's amazing a guy like Alistair McLeod wants to come across like he's a big shot. He doesn't even know what inflation is. It's prices going up. No, it isn't. Moron, McFly, you're an idiot. But people listen to him. So people now think inflation's prices going up. And he doesn't know what he's talking. So you got to be careful who you listen to, which is my point. That's why if you listen to me, I explain it. Like when they'll say, Mark McGuire will say backwardation, or Alistair will say it's not gold going up, it's the dollar going. They're wrong. They're 100% wrong. Or the backwardation, they don't explain it. Alistair doesn't explain that it's not gold going up, the dollar going down. Explain that. So when gold goes down, the dollar is going up, which is impossible because they're never stopping printing the dollar. So the dollar can never go up. So explain why gold goes down, because it's options, because it's controlled by options, not the money supply. It's got nothing to do with the value of the dollar. Does not do anything with the gold price. It's not related. Not at all. Gold price is being supply and demand, people wanting gold, just like you want mantle. It's got nothing to do with the supply of dollars. It's the supply of dollars being inflated, which takes you to gold and silver, but doesn't get you your price. All right. What else? Like I said, in sports, it's a little dead period now. Football, these coaches are idiots. I mean, I'm looking at the coaching hires and fires, and I think all these teams will be firing these 10 coaches they just hired and give it 2 years. John Harbaugh is not a good coach. He's not smart enough to sit Lamar down and put in a real quarterback. So now he's got Jackson Dart, who I showed you the Brady thing on developed quarterbacks. They're not being developed. I'll show you that again. It's a real good clip from Brady. All right, so Tom Brady on how quarterbacks
you go into the NFL draft and everyone's like, look at this guy's skill set. He's really fast. He's really big. Look how strong an arm he throws. Oh my God, he was on his knees and he threw the ball 70 yards. But I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Is he smart enough to take in information, process it, and use it on the field? Has he mastered the playbook? Does he know how to study? Does he know how to learn from his mistakes? And then emotionally, is he competitive every day? Is he really volatile as a leader? Does he know how to deal with adversity? Does he know how to deal with competition? How does he react when things don't go his way? What's going to happen when he throws 4 interceptions a game? How's he going to respond to that? So if you don't have those, because as you guys know, when you play sports, adversity is coming. It may not be your first year. It may not be your second year. It will come at some point. And the best players I've ever been around, they know how to deal with all parts of those emotions.
All right.
So that is how I base quarterbacks. I don't care how fast Lamar is, and I don't care how strong Josh Allen is. Can they read a defense? Can they, audible out of the play? Lamar can't do that. So I like bringing up the Buffalo game where Lamar hands the ball to Henry. They're up. They got a 5 or 6 or 7 point lead, and they're just trying to run the clock out. And he hands it to Henry, and there's 5 Bills waiting for him, and he fumbles. He didn't audible out of that play. That's the knock on Lamar. Not only can he not throw, but he can't read a defense. He can't audible out the play. He thinks, well, I got speed. I'll just run. And I think he faked a lot of his injuries this year. Oh, my foot's hurting, my toe. That was all bullshit. That's because he's not very good. And Harbaugh should have benched him, should have played him at wide receiver, but he didn't. And I blame Harbaugh why Baltimore's not won a Super Bowl, because they had the talent to win it. If you play Lamar at receiver and you would have stuck with any of these, you could have stuck with the quarterback they used this year, the guy from Utah, Huntley. If you'd have played him at quarterback and Lamar at wide receiver, they might have made the Super Bowl. But he's not smart enough to do it. And if the GM or president says, no, Lamar has to stay at quarterback, then I would have quit. I can't win with him at quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. Jalen Hurts, the same thing. CJ Stroud. I'm telling you, Caleb does not know how to read. He dances around and then just throws the ball long. It's all luck. He threw 3 interceptions. So the key's in the Ram game, right? He throws 3 picks, and the one in the overtime was a terrible pass. He threw it, and DJ Moore was behind the cornerback. So he's got to run through the cornerback to catch the ball that the cornerback intercepted. That's what you look at, not the miracle pass he threw to the tight end late in the game, running backwards 20 yards and just throwing it up with his eyes closed. Does not tell me he's a great quarterback. He's an elite quarterback. It's the 3 interceptions. So most people don't understand that. But that's what I mean. They might have the tools, or they draft these fast quarterbacks. Richardson at Indy, he's terrible, but he runs. He's an athlete. Well, yeah, but you're not going to win with him. This Jackson Dart at New York, he keeps getting concussions. All he wants to do is run because he can't read the defense. He doesn't know where to throw the ball, so he wants to run. But this is the NFL, not Ole Miss. And you just go down the list of quarterbacks, and the only ones who get it are Mahomes and Joe Burrow, which is why we bet on Mahomes and Joe Burrow all the time. They get it. They know where to throw. Stafford, that's why we bet Stafford against Seattle. But Drake May doesn't have it, and that's why we took Seattle over New England. If Tom Brady was the quarterback at New England and they were getting 4.5, I'd have bet a ton on New England and 10.5 because Brady would have eaten them up. But you didn't have Brady. You had Drake May. Knowing the quarterback is crucial to betting football. And that's exactly the point. Now I'm going to show you. This is from Lawrence Taylor today. He talks about Joe Montana being the greatest quarterback. You'll like this.
Who is the best quarterback?
I'm still with Joe Montana. Joe played in an era where you could actually hit the quarterback. That's the real difference between him and a guy like Brady who plays in this soft era. Back then, Joe was getting hit by me, by Reggie White. He was getting concussed, but there were no flags jumping out to save him. He still went out and took 4 Super Bowls. That's the gap right there. If Joe played in today's game, what kind of numbers are we even talking about? A longer career, fewer injuries, and none of those locker room issues with Steve Young. Joe overcame everything. That's what a GOAT looks like. Not someone who gets the rules changed for him every time they get a scratch. Brady's got a lot of rings, sure, but I'm telling you, those rings are coated in the protective shade of the rule book. Joe was a lion surviving in the jungle. Brady is a show dog raised in an incubator. If you let Joe play under these modern don't touch the quarterback rules, he'd play until he was 60, win 10 championships. And he sure as hell wouldn't be complaining to the refs because the air pressure and the ball wasn't right. That's why in my book, Joe is the one forever standing on top of that mountain while everyone else is just playing numbers games in the shadows.
What?
Now that's from Lawrence Taylor. And that is huge, right? That's exactly, I don't have to say, I thought Montana was the best. Brady, yeah, he won a lot of Super Bowls, but again, the errors that this is what I talk about in the 80s. You had Magic, you had Bird, you had Kareem, you had Dr. J, then you had the Pistons win. And that was hell. They would knock Jordan on his ass. The Jordan rules, the Pistons used, Larry Bird. I mean, that was basketball. I don't know what this is. I can't watch this. I look at it and it's like Godfather Part 2. Godfather, Marlon Brando, James Caan, everybody. Great movie. Godfather 2, they're not in it. Who gives a fuck? It's just a different movie. It's a different look. Godfather 3 was ridiculous. I didn't even understand the plot. Oh, but let's go after the Vatican. Huh? The first one, they're going after the other 5 families. And the second one, all right, still a little mafia. The third one, the Vatican. You want to make the Vatican the bad guy. Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's see. Here's one on Brady on grading the quarterbacks. I don't think I showed this one yet.
You go into the NFL draft and everyone's like,
yeah, I just showed it. Okay. Here's a stoic one on 8 smart phrases.
When someone says thank you, don't reply with "you're welcome." Without realizing it, you're minimizing your own value. Words seem small, but they shape how the world perceives you. Today, you'll learn 8 responses that instantly elevate your presence. When someone says thank you, don't say "you're welcome." Say "it was my pleasure," or "you can always count on me." Value your time. Value your energy. If you arrive late, don't say "sorry, I'm late." Say "thank you for waiting. I appreciate your patience." Turn guilt into gratitude. When someone asks what you want to eat, don't say "whatever." Say "you choose. I trust your taste." Calm confidence is leadership. If someone asks whether you know how to do something, don't say "I don't know." Say "I can learn it quickly." Capability outweighs doubt. If you don't know the answer, don't say "no idea." Say "that's interesting. What do you think?" Well-placed humility earns respect. If someone compliments you, don't deflect it. Say "thank you. That means a lot." Receiving with confidence is strength. If a guest says there's too much food, don't apologize. Say "you deserve to enjoy it." Generosity doesn't need justification. Never speak carelessly. Every word either builds your presence or weakens it. And here comes the most important part. Speaking well isn't manipulation. It's awareness. Master your words, and you master how the world responds to you.
You gotta love Marcus Aurelius.
And he decided it was going to be us again.
All right, let's see. There's one, your doctor is wrong about blood sugar, but I haven't gotten to that yet. There was one on cholesterol, which I thought I liked, but it was a while ago. Let's see. Let me.
Global debt is about 3.
Easy, Egon. So we watched Egon last week. Global debt 370 trillion. It's just 39 trillion in the US. It's 370 trillion. As I said, every country's doing the same thing. They're printing this. They're then increasing the money supply, and then they're decreasing the purchasing power. They all have debt. They all have a lot of government. So they're all going off the same playbook, probably thanks to George Soros. So the whole world's bankrupt. BRICS got smart and said, we're going to back our money by gold and they'll be saved. The rest of them are all going to go and they're all going to be bankrupt together. And so the gold and silver is really going to jump because the demand for gold and silver will really jump and the price will really go up and you won't be able to get any. And if you do want some, you're going to pay a lot more for it. So that's why we are also happy about gold and silver. Let's see. I was watching Marshall Holman and Mark Roth in this bowling. Mark Roth won. I'm watching some high stakes poker, which is very interesting. Like I said, that's when they start putting in a lot of money. It's to protect their hand. They got aces. They see 2 spades on the board. They don't want you to catch the flush so that you're going to pay to do it. That's called protection. And that's what I invoke and teach is if you have a hand like aces, it's nothing, especially with 2 spades. Well, in my case, you bet $50. The guy's not going out. He's going to try to catch his. So you got to make it 200-300. So it costs a lot for the guy to try to catch his flush, which he knows the odds are very slim. I always think the flush odds are not accurate because I think, let's say there's 7 people at the table. Well, the odds are that 2 of every suit go. There's 14 cards. Is 2 of every suit is 8. So it's almost like 3 of every suit's out. So now you're on a flush draw. And you've got 2 in your hand and there's 2 on the board, but there was another 3 that were dealt on the flop. So you don't have, it's not like you have 4, was there 13 cards? It's not like there's 9 outs left. There's probably 6 or 7 left because they were dealt. Like you're just assuming that no clubs were dealt. Well, no, they weren't. So you really don't have as big of odds as you can. So you make the big bet, and if the guy wants to call you for the flush, he's got to pay for it. So a lot of the big bets are protection in a cash game. In the tournament game, they're more bluffs. Or I got ace king, I'm all in. And then it becomes a game of luck. Where in cash games, you're not really seeing ace king go all in. You're seeing a bet. And I want to see the flop. And if I catch an ace or a king on the flop, then I might bet big. But in the tournaments, it's all luck. I got ace king and okay, you got ace queen and it'll be luck who wins. I mean, that's ridiculous, but that's what you see in a tournament. So keep that in mind. Depends on what you're playing. And also in the tournament, you're getting blinded out. When a cash game, you're not. It's always, 25, 50 or 5-10 or 1-2, whatever you're playing, the antes always are consistent. So you're never blinded out, and you can always go get more money. So that's the big difference. And then you're trying to read. The problem is, what does the guy have? And the problem solving is watch his betting. You can't watch the guy. The guy's not going to give you a tell. Like I said, you're trying to guess my tells, you're going to guess wrong because I'm going to give you fake tells because I know you're looking for my tells. So I'm going to give you fake tells. But I can't fake my bet. If I bet $50, it's not fake. Now you can say, why did he bet it? Is he bluffing or does he have it? but that's why you learn the pattern. Well, no, he's probably got it. Now, if I'm checking, if it's check to me, and I might bet because I think they're weak because they're checking, not because I'm reading their faces or anything else. The only thing I will say is if you see somebody drinking any type of drink in the middle of the hand, they have it. They're relaxed, right? So that's probably the only tell is they're relaxed. When you're watching the TV, there's a game on and the guy makes $100 bet and he's looking at the TV, he's got it because he's relaxed. And the last thing is if you get check raised. So I got aces, I bet it, somebody calls, he's probably got a pair of sixes, sevens, eights. He then, he checks to me, I got my aces. I then come out with $30, $35 where he's going away. If he calls, he's got sevens or eights. But when he checks and I bet and then he raises me, it's 100%. He's got me. And I'll fold my aces because it's the smart play. It's the smart thing to do. And I play smart. And if he didn't, he's not bluffing me because why do you bluff? You bluff because you think the guy's weak. Well, if I'm betting 25 pre-flop and 25 on the flop, am I weak in a 1-2 game where the normal bet's $10, $15? No. So I'm not weak. So you're not bluffing me. So that means you have the hand, which means I got to fold because if you're check raising me, you hit a set. If you just check call me, then you probably got eights or nines and I'm in good shape. So that's how I read that check raise is I'm very scared of a check raise on the flop when I got aces or kings and make a big bet. Let's see. Your doctor's wrong about blood sugar. Let's see. So here's this one on cholesterol. I advise you. What it tells you is cholesterol is not a problem. Cholesterol, it's 28 minutes, so I'm not going to play it. But cholesterol, there's no problem with cholesterol. As he explains in the video, it's like when you see fire engines go to a fire. The fire engine isn't the cause of the fire, but it happens to be there. The cholesterol is not the cause of your heart attack or your stroke. It's there trying to help. The problem is always sugar. Please watch your sugars. Cigarettes are poison to your body. My friend's got Lyme disease in Alabama, and he says, I've been taking. I said, are you taking cayenne pepper, which cures a lot of stuff? Says I've been taking some of that and castor oil, and I showed him what I got a bowl where I got castor oil, coconut oil, and cayenne pepper, and that's how I'm getting here. I know it's weird. Sometimes it doesn't look like it, but it's real thin. But you can see I am growing in here, and but from that view, it's not as easy to see, but it's growing my hair out. And basically, the key is I told them to fast. I says fasting brings out the autography. So in other words, if you're not feeling well, even if you had a bad kidney or liver, you can heal them. And you do autography, which means you fast, which means you can have water. Like here, this is ginger in my water, and I got cinnamon in there, and squeeze some lemon maybe. That will, the fasting after 18 hours, autography comes in, which is like the cleaning lady comes in and cleans. It gets rid of all your bad cells and just cleans you up. And it's hungry. So it goes to your fat and it eats your fat. So you actually get thin fasting because your body needs energy and it eats the fat. And then you start feeling thinner on your fast. But I told them, try a 48-hour fast. I said, I normally do 90. I did one maybe a month ago. And I said, you feel great. And it's really just the first day. So I said, all right, so eat dinner today, Monday. Tuesday, don't eat. Drink a lot of water, coffee and tea, no sugar, no sweet and low. Have that. You'll have 4 or 5 glasses because the first day you're real hungry because you're used to eating. But then the second day, you're kind of numb. You have some coffee, you have some water, but you're not as hungry as you were day one. And then, the longer you can make it, now after 18 hours, autophagy kicks in, which means your cleaners are in and it's going after bad cell. You got cancer, it'll eat it. You've got other cells. He's got Lyme disease. I says, it'll eat the Lyme disease. The Lyme disease is in the cells. I said, just fast. It'll get rid of the Lyme disease because your body knows where the problems are and it'll fix it. You break your leg, you break your arm. What happens? It heals. How does it heal? The autophagy. But it takes a while. If you were to do a 6-7 day fast with a broken foot or a broken arm, it would heal a lot quicker because your body would attack the weakness, the broken bone, and mend it much quicker. So after the first day's hard, so you drink a lot. The second day is much easier. And I can go 4 days because after the second day, I go, I don't need to eat. So you're literally not that hungry. And the autophagy is working, so that's good. And your body's healing, and you're losing some weight, and you're getting rid of some fat. So it's all, positive. It's like eating dark chocolate. It's not M&Ms, but it doesn't taste great, but it doesn't taste that bad. But you need the cocoa. So that's why you eat like that. And then, like I said, so like Tuesday would be day one. Well, Wednesday, you're in the middle of it. You're not eating. And then you get to dinner time and you go, if I don't eat, I'll go to bed soon. And that's another 12 hours of fasting. So you fuck, let me go to sleep and wake up. And it's 7 o'clock the next day and you fasted another, 8-9 hours. And then you go, I'm really not that hungry on the third day. And then you can kind of brainwash yourself into going, well, the autophagy is working. I know I need 18 hours for that. So I'm going to keep that going. And then I go, and then finally, like the day 4, I start eating just because I have food that I go, well, if I don't eat it, it's going to spoil. Now, this is the doctor, Dr. Stan Ekberg. He was an Olympian. What do you call it? The guy who did the 10 events. And then so he's an Olympian and he's a doctor. I can't think of the type of doctor. I can't think of it, but he's very good and he explains everything. He problem solves going out. Cholesterol is not a problem. So people are worried about cholesterol and there's no reason to be. It's not a problem. Kurt, how are you? You are great. You predicted these prices before. Well, again, I go to the rule book and it's the money supply is going to be increased by every country. The decrease in the purchasing power. So the money's worth less. So your only option is gold and silver. So that's there. The gold is going to go way up and the silver is going to go way up. We're just waiting for it. But as I was stating earlier, the problem is most people don't understand the dollar losing purchasing power and that the gold and silver, you cannot print. You cannot increase the supply of gold and silver. So therefore, it will never lose value. And people don't get that. That's kind of this class is why they don't get it and then why it gets inflated. Proud of you. Well, thank you, Kurt. Will these more gain till this year? Well, yeah, the prices will keep going up. There's nothing really to stop it. The only reason is because of the COMEX where they're printing, they're doing options, right? That's controlling the price. So the price isn't really going to a free market based on supply and demand. It's these options that come in from COMEX that are really controlling the price. So we know that's phony. It's got to be the market that controls it. You put it out on the shelf and somebody buys it, you got a good price. Nobody buys it, you put it on sale. So like I say with the 2-liter Coke, you made it $3.50 for 2-liter. Nobody wants it. You make it 2 for $5 and then you sell it. So there's a price point in that. But we're not getting that with gold and silver. We get this stupid COMEX options run by the banks trying to set the price. And that's the problem. That's why it's so cheap. And that's why I say just keep buying it. it eventually will keep going because there's too much demand for it. TK, great job. You do. How's you got 20 inches of snow? You're doing awesome. TK, great. You do. How's you? We got 20. You got 20 inches of snow. We got an inch or two, but we didn't get much snow. We did get snow, but not like that. So you got 20 inches. Stay off the roads, let them plow, and go out to get to the grocery store or something, but go to the gym. But that's it. I had a real frustrating weekend. They had this swim tournament. Like started Friday afternoon and went Saturday and Sunday. And so I couldn't, you go to my lap pool and do my laps, which is why I go there. And it calms me down. It relaxes me. It's very healthy for me. There's one lane that's 5 feet that I run in. I'm 5'9", so it comes up to here. So I run for a half hour and I swim a little bit too. And it was closed. And so Saturday I get there. I think I started mentioning this yesterday. I get there and it's 3:00 and it's open till 6:30 and there's nobody there. The tournament had finished up for the day, was coming back Sunday, but it was finished for the day and they wouldn't let me swim in it. And I'm like, so I started bitching going, well, they paid for it. I go, well, I pay too. I'm a member. I pay a monthly fee to join the club and swim and everything. And I was really upset because there's nobody there. Why aren't you opening it? And they wouldn't open it. And then yesterday, similar thing. I got there at like 2:30 and again, it was done and they're cleaning up. And I said, why can't I get into my lane? It's not affecting you cleaning it. Well, we don't have a lifeguard. Well, you got all these lifeguards cleaning it. I don't need a lifeguard to run back and forth, or they can kind of peek in on me. So it was a very frustrating weekend where I couldn't use the pool. So I'm going to go. I'm going to have a lunch and go to there. But it was frustrating because they don't understand I'm paying also. So it's like going to a restaurant. They're having a birthday party. And the party gets over. Okay, open up the restaurant so we can eat. Oh, no, we're closing the restaurant because there was a birthday party. You're like, what the fuck? So it was a little frustrating. But no, we didn't get 20 inches in Michigan. So if you did, I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, so I was talking about the fasting and the autography. So the autography cleans your cells is the key. You get new cells every 90 days. If you smoke and drink, you're killing your cells. That's one of the problems with smoking and drinking. It ages you. So we had a video on aging, the 10 worst foods, and it was sweet orange juice or sweet juices. It was regular pop. It was alcohol. It was cigarettes. It was baked goods. It was margarine. It was the canola oil, vegetable oil instead of the vegetable oil. Well, I eat butter instead. I eat olive oil, so I'm good there. I don't have juices. I don't have regular pop. I did get a diet squirt yesterday, just as a treat, but there's no sugar in it. There's no caffeine in it. You got to watch your caffeine also. And I don't have alcohol, even though I got my Canadian club. You see, it's not going to be open, at least not by me. And then you have the only thing I have is once in a while I have a muffin or a piece of cake, which is probably that's the worst thing I eat, but it's very, very rare. And so that's kind of that's why I don't look my age, is because those are the things that age you. So basically it's sugar and it's vegetable oil and margarine, which is vegetable oil, and the baked goods. So if you stay away from the sugar and the sweet drinks and the alcohol, again, you can have once in a while, but not like every day. You won't age that bad. Cigarettes are really. I got a friend who smokes, and he looks like a shrunken head. His skin's all leathery, and it's like, oh, this guy's gross. Anyway, curing yourself is the fasting. The fasting will cure your ailments, but it must take 18 hours to let the autography or the maid come in. After 18 hours, she shows up. She starts cleaning all your cells. She starts needing energy, so she starts eating your stored food. So when you have fat, it's stored food. So the maid will come and she'll eat the fat because she needs energy. So she starts going after that. And all of a sudden, so your fat's down and you're feeling much better. I always feel great after it. And so I've done 90 hours, I think 92 once. But after the first day, it's not hard. The second day and the third day is really easy. And the fourth day, you could easily, like if you had a bet of 25,000 on it, you wouldn't eat the fourth day either. You could probably go a week because at that point you're kind of numb. Like you don't need to eat. You drink and you just stay busy mentally, and you really could keep going. So I think next time I'll see how far I can go. I had made barbecue chicken, so I was at the point where I better start eating it. Because when I'm fasting, I'm getting vegetables, I'm cutting them up, I'm making chicken for when I'm off the thing, but it gives me something to do, even though it's food. I go to the grocery store and I'm fucking hungry, but what are you gonna do? So again, cholesterol is not real. It's not a problem. He said the only type is if it's real big, the cholesterol. But otherwise, cholesterol itself is not a problem. It's just there. Your body needs the cholesterol. So I'm not going to play it. I might watch it and then write down some times for it. So this is like 28 minutes. So what I tend to do is when he gets to key points, I'll write 12. That's what I did today or yesterday with the Egon and Mark McGuire one. I wrote down 8 at the 8-minute mark, at the 12-minute mark. That way we're not watching the whole video and getting the key points. So maybe I'll watch this and get it. But cholesterol is not bad for you. In fact, you need it. They try to get you to zero cholesterol because the doctors don't understand, but it's the worst thing you could do. You need the cholesterol for the rest of your body. So if you have zero cholesterol, you're fucked. In fact, you don't want it. You want probably 200, 300 cholesterol, but you don't even care. I never check my cholesterol, and I'm fine. So that's what I watched yesterday, Mark McGuire and Alligator. The Alligator, the more I listen, the more clueless he is. So you think he's smart. He's Alistair McLeod. He's smart. He's not. He doesn't understand what inflation is. He calls it debasement. He thinks, oh, it'll come back. They'll have higher prices, which is not inflation. Inflation is the value of the dollar goes down, so prices go up because it takes more dollars. Since they're worth less, it takes more dollars to buy something. But again, the market control, this is the key point he doesn't understand. Gold and silver, it's the market controlling the 5,200. It's not the dollar going down making it 5,200. It's not the dollar being inflated making it 5,200. It's still the market, supply and demand, pushing the price up. Like I showed you that Mantle card, $60,000, right? Why is this 60,000? Is this because of inflation? No. This is supply and demand. There's a PSA 9 that's very limited for 1965, but you get it graded because if I'm going to pay 60 grand for it, I see it's graded. So it's a real card and it's in really good condition. So I'll pay 60,000. If you tried to sell me that card that's not graded, I don't pay you 60 grand for it. I might pay 2,000 for it. And only if I'm at a show where I can look at the card myself, but I can't do it on eBay. But the reason that 60 grand is because the supply is very limited for a Mantle 9. The demand, because it's Mantle, because it's 1965, gets you 60,000. This is based on supply and demand, not that the dollar went up or down in the inflation. So he's just dead wrong. TK, you have that card? No, I don't have this. This is eBay. I have the 68 Mantle. I do not have the 65, although I do have a lot of 65s and nice. I have a Mays and an Aaron and a Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, some very nice cards. And no, I don't have this Mantle. This is his rookie card, PSA 4. And look, it's going for 200,000. Again, there's a lot of demand for the Mantle rookie. It's a 4. Now, if it was a 9 or a 10, it'd be over $1 million. A 10 would be way over, it'd be 5 million or more. The 9 would probably be $1 million, because the better the condition, the more demand. So here you got it's a Mantle rookie. It's graded, so I know it's real. He wants 200,000 for it, and you're like, oh, well, 200,000, but I want a Mantle rookie. There's demand for Mantle, especially the rookie card. There's something about the rookie card where people want it. What do I got here? So here's a Larry Bird card, 1987. And I do have this card. It's 20 grand all of a sudden. It was a couple thousand. Now it went up to 20. I do have this card. It's not graded. It's probably similar to this. This is a PSA 10, 20,000. I also have the Magic in it, and I have the Jordan in it, and everything else. Here's the Joe Montana rookie, PSA 10, 125,000. Again, because it's very limited, and the demand for Joe Montana. And the more you see Lawrence Taylor saying he's much better than Brady, that draws interest and demand even more into Montana, going, wow, he was great. And again, he played in a rough era, and he still won 4 Super Bowls. He would have won 5, but he got hurt in that 1990 game when they broke his hand on a tackle, or they would have won that Super Bowl. So it's unfortunate. So let's go into how's our gold doing today? So here we're getting $5,600 for 1 ounce gold. The Buffalo is a little bit more because it's 24 karat versus the 22, but it doesn't matter. There's an ounce of gold in the Buffalo. There's an ounce of gold in this Eagle. So you can see I would never pay 200 more, because they're saying, well, this is 24 karat, this is 22, but it's still an ounce of gold. It's not like it's not. So here's 5,400. Now this is a coin shop, BGASC. So if you ever, well, can I buy it from them and trust it? You look at their feedback, and it's 43,322, basically 100% feedback. So they're selling 43. They're obviously good, or people wouldn't buy it. So again, here's a Maple Leaf, 5,400. The Eagles also 54. It's a little bit lower. Only I don't understand. So this is where the psychology leaves me. I'm buying an ounce of gold. Here's an Eagle, US, 54.91. And here's a Maple Leaf, 54.46. Why? Why is the Eagle worth more? Because they're both 1 ounce of gold. It's not like the Maple Leaf's not an ounce of gold. It's an ounce of gold. I'm buying an ounce of gold. The value of the gold, was 5,200 when we came on. We'll check that. So it's 5,200. You're going to pay a couple hundred in premium, which we know that's part of the game. But why is the Eagle worth more than the Maple Leaf when they're both 1 ounce of gold? I'm buying the gold. I don't care that it's got a Maple Leaf on it or it's got an Eagle on it. Why does that matter? I'm buying the ounce of gold. This is the part I've never understood, because the ounce of gold, the cost of 5,200 is the value of it. It's not in, there's not a value in Maple Leaf and Cougaran and US. The value for 1 ounce of gold on COMEX is 5,200. So why is this premium different? Because the ounce of gold's 5,200. It's not less or more based on the country. It makes no sense. And again, if I sell 2 ounces of gold, I'm not going to get 1099. I'm not going to pay tax, even if I did, because I'm retired. I don't make 50 grand, and therefore my capital gains is zero. So what do I care? Anyway. And then you can see here the Maple Leaf's 5416, and this Maple Leaf is 5416. This is 5446. So again, there's a lot of different markets for collectibles or for this. Then we get a tenth of an ounce. So it's based on weight. A tenth of an ounce is 600. Times it by 10 is 6,000. Oh, wait a minute. But this is 5489 for 1 ounce. If I get 10 of these, it's going to be 6,000. It's going to be like 500 more. Well, it's because I got 600 to buy a tenth of an ounce. But that's why I kept explaining to my guy. He'd say, well, why do you buy tenth of an ounce and quarter ounce? I go, because I don't have $6,000 to buy an ounce every time I walk into the store. But I do have, well, at the time it was like I don't have like 2,100 to buy the ounce of gold, but I have 500 and I can buy a tenth of an ounce for 250. So I said, well, I still want to buy gold, and this is what I can afford. I don't need an ounce every time. And now if I want to sell, I might sell a quarter ounce. Let's see what those are. This guy's an idiot. This guy's selling a 1 ounce, 14 karat. Oh, see, this is all bullshit. This is 14 karat, 9, 10. He's gonna struggle. This is why you never buy it. We'll go into the auction. It's a dragon. What is this? Does it say 1 ounce of gold? No. Does it say 1 ounce? So I would never buy this. Is it real gold? I don't know. Then I see it's 1 ounce of 14 karat gold, but it doesn't say it on the coin. Solid gold round investing piece. No, we're not investing with gold. We're buying it. So I wouldn't buy it either. I think it's a stupid coin. Here I know it's Liberty. It's a Buffalo. I know these are real gold, and they say it on there. So if you looked on this, you get 1 ounce fine gold, $50. USA. The only thing, the US, they don't date it. I think they do. Where's the date? I don't see a date on this, which is weird. Maybe he's blocking the date. But yeah, I mean, this tells you everything, right? 1 ounce, fine gold, $50. And they tend not to say 999 on it, but it is. So again, that's, it says 1 ounce, pure gold, and $50. Now, nobody would ever say give me $50 for it, unless you find a real moron who will take $50 for it. But that's why you buy gold. Gold's 5,200. Let's look at the quarter ounce. Here, half ounces are about 2,800. Even though it's 5,200, it's not exactly half, so they get a different premium. So it's 2,800 for your half ounce. Let's see. Usually they have the quarter ounces in here. So half ounce is 2,900. Quarter ounce gold. So here you go, 1,400, 1,500 for a quarter ounce. Now 4 of these make it, so it's still like 6,000 for an ounce. because you multiply them by 4. But I would get a lot of these because they're enough. So you might, you need money. Here's 1472 for it. This is 13. I don't know. They're not state. Here's 1400 for maple leaves. So most of them are like 1400 for a quarter ounce. 4 quarter ounces is 5600. It's going for 52, but with the premium, you're paying 5400 for 1 ounce of gold. So that's how, like, if I go to my guy's store, I might bring 4 quarter ounces and sell it as 1 ounce. But that's, again, preserving your ounce. But I can get, so here's 1400. Well, let's say I want to take a trip, or I might take 2 of these in and get 2900 for it. And there you go. And that's the great equalizer. That's because this is being printed to 0. And that's what I mean by it. It increases the money supply, decreases the purchasing power. So when I say it's printed to 0, I'm saying the purchasing power has decreased to now it's worth 0. But on this hand, this keeps going up. And it's not correlated to the dollar going down, gold goes up. It's not gold going up. Alistair is sorely mistaken. And that's why you got to be careful. The more I hear Alistair, the less I am confident he knows what he's talking about. Mark McGuire does. Egon's the one that we know they're talking about. But again, that's why he's selling wealth protection versus an investment. This really isn't an investment, but because we know this is going to 0, it makes this your only outlet, your only lifeboat. And since this is the only lifeboat, it goes up mostly based on demand, because I got to get out of the dollar. What do I get into? I can't get into the euro or the British pound or the Swiss franc. And so I only have one out, which is gold and silver. Bitcoin's not an out. It's not valued at all. So let's see. So yeah, 1400 Cougaran, 14, a little bit more for the Eagle. So the Eagle's up here at 1450, and the Cougaran is at, the Cougaran's at 1402. So, yeah, but when you're buying it, a quarter ounce, I probably paid 300 for them. And it was $50 cheaper for a Cougaran. So I'm fine with it. Like I say, there won't be any 1099 if I bring in 5 quarter ounce or half ounce Cougarans or ounces. And there won't be a capital gains tax because A, my tax bracket is 0 on a capital gains. And B, if I'm not getting a 1099, I don't, I remember, did I sell any? I honestly don't remember, and then we'll have to see how they pay me. Cash, that's it. I don't know if they'll pay cash, but if they do, even better. If they give me a check, then I go to the bank and ask for money. And I don't know if they'll ask me, well, what is it? I mean, I don't know if that's if they can ask me that, or what my answer will be. What's the big deal? Oh, I made money selling Bitcoin. I don't know. I got lucky playing poker. Again, you don't really pay a tax on that. So that's kind of what I would look at. But you can see the quarter ounces are 400. And then we get to the 1/10 of an ounce, 616, 600 roughly for a 1/10 of an ounce. So they don't always come back to the 5,200. Here's, I don't get this one, a 1/10 of an ounce for 320, when here's a 1/10 of an ounce for 600. And Here's tenth of an ounces for 590. I'm really like, this is where you gotta avoid. This might be a 20th of an ounce, but I would not buy it for 320 if the price is 600. Why are you selling it for 320 if it's a tenth of an ounce? So I'm not. I think it's a 20th of an ounce, but they're about 600. So again, you take 10 of them in, that's $6,000. So they all kind of get to the ounce at about 6,000, and the ounces are about 5,400 as I showed you. So if you have 10 out, 10, you take them in and get what you would as if it's an ounce. Or you might not. You might just take 2 or 3 in. See, but the beauty is I can take 2 quarters and I can take 5 of the tenth of an ounce at 600 and get 3,000. And I'm just selling my tenth of an ounces that I paid nothing for, $100, or no, probably 200. It was probably the quarter ounce was 3 something. The tenth of an ounce was about 150. I'm talking about when I started in 2021. Half of an ounce was 1,100, and then the ounce cost me 1,800. So you can see that we've kind of made money on it. The dollar's lost value, so it kind of gets a little bit shaded, but you can see what's going on. And this is the auction of eBay, and that's our point. Let's take a look at our gold and silver. What are we at now? So gold's hanging in nicely at 52.14. We've survived the 10 o'clock drop there. When we first came on, it was knocking it back to 51.80. It's now jumped to 52, got up to close to 52.20. And then this is 87. This was just over 87. Oh, no. See, in 2 seconds, it's now back to 87.09. It was 88 earlier. So that's what we're looking at. That's what you're looking at. So the key is the understanding, the knowledge. That's what I'm trying to teach you. You understand football, you analyze the teams, you understand poker, you analyze the players. Does that bet, oh, I see, he bets like this, but it's against certain players, and how is he going to play me, and how does he read me, and I got to watch the bets. Football, we study the teams. That's how we determine the bet. And gold and silver, we understand it's very simple. You're increasing the money supply, and they do it all the time, every month, every day probably, and then it decreases the purchasing power. The exact reason I'm struggling with, I just think there's too much out there, and so it's worth less because you have more. So there must be like this total value, and when it's down here, the total value of the dollar is higher. But as you increase the money supply, the value then must go down because the total value is this, something like that. But we just know the more they print, the value of the purchasing power, or what the money will buy, is less. And then the prices don't really go up. What happens is it takes more, since the dollar's lost value, it takes more dollars to buy the Oreo cookies, the tuna, the steaks, the tires, the cars, the houses, and everything else, is because the value of the dollar has gone down. So that takes more dollars to go up. The banks are our enemies. They're just print money out of nothing. So let's imagine somebody wants to borrow money to buy a house. I need 500 grand. I don't have any money. I'm just going to print it out of thin air. And now here's 500 grand, and you're going to pay me 8% interest for 30 years because I lent you money that doesn't exist. That's the problem, right? So nobody really should be buying a house if they can't afford it. So the house value should never be 500,000. How many people actually have 500,000 to buy it? And then you got to keep an eye on that the value of the dollar is not worth what it was. So a billionaire now, if we go back into 1970s, probably a guy with $100,000. Like I said, I'm watching bowling, and the guy, the top prize was $2,100 in the 70s. Dick Weber, he made $2,000 for winning the tournament, and now as we went through the years, it became $20,000 to win the Firestone. What happened to the Firestone Tournament Champion? Is like there's a time when somebody else has the Tournament of Champions, and then Chris Schenkel goes away. He's like, well, wait, what's going on here? So keep that in mind. The dollar has to lose value because it has to keep being printed, and that's hitting the nail on the head. That's a very simple concept. They don't have enough money. They spend more than they make, so they got to print more money so they can cover their expense. They can cover the government employees and the interest on the debt and the defense contractors and Social Security. They don't have enough money. They have to print it, which makes the value that they're printing worth less. That's why they can't just print $39 trillion, pay off the debt, because obviously the money wouldn't be worth anything. That would end the money right there. It would go to zero. So they're doing it the slow way, but it's the same thing. So because you know that, what do? You go with. I'm just looking at my hair. See, look at all the extra hair I'm starting to get. So again, it's castor oil, coconut oil, and cayenne pepper. Mix it, nuke it, stir it around, and then just apply, and the hair grows. It works. Anyway, so I think that's it. We'll keep an eye on the football coaches. We've got the draft coming up in a month or two. The trades are pretty much meaningless. These new coaches, none of them will work out. They got lucky with Ben Johnson last year, and the Seattle coach, they got lucky on. But Chicago did get a bunch of offensive linemen. The running back, and then the defense was a little weak, so they'll work on defense this offseason. But by adding 3 offensive linemen and changing their scheme to a running scheme, keeping the ball out of Caleb's hand pretty much, that was it. But don't get confused. Caleb's an elite quarterback. He's not. He still sucks. That's the handicap. Caleb cost them the championship game by throwing 3 picks, especially the one in overtime. If he just keeps driving them down the field, they kick the field goal, they win, and they're playing Seattle. Now, I don't think they could have beat Seattle, but they were beating the Rams, although it was 0 degrees. They had the perfect day for the Rams. It was 0, and here you got Stafford. So keep that in mind. It's the coach is critical, and Sean Payton. They're the 1 seed. It's no accident they got Sean Payton. So you keep watching the coaches. That's instrumental. The quarterbacks. Know the difference between a guy who chokes and a guy who doesn't know what he's doing and a guy who does. And there's very few that know. As I said, Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Stafford and Aaron Rodgers. Even though Aaron's getting older, he still knows what he's doing. And then you got your Jared Goffs and your C.J. Strouds and your Calebs who aren't very good at all, who can't read defenses. The key is reading the defense. I gotta get to the line and go, I'm going to throw right there. There's the weakness. I'm throwing to it. I don't think they have a clue. And like I said, they're guys like Lamar and Hurts. They just want to run around. And Jackson Dart, how many concussions you going to have? Tate Taylor, boy, he's terrible. So we'll see. But you want to see in big games who wins and who loses. And like Trevor Lawrence, the guy's terrible. He can't throw though. He runs, but he can't throw. So you basically, these running quarterbacks, when they get in against good defenses, they fade away. Anyway, so that's what's going on. So we see gold over 5,200, silver basically 87. And it started at 83, so you can't really bitch. Why is it not going? It'll probably go. We're past that 10 o'clock drop, so we're at 120 right now, so that's good. And just keep going, keep buying. because we know they're going to keep printing the money. It's going to keep losing its purchasing power. So it's a no-brainer. They're going to keep printing. They're going to keep losing. The only way out is to come up with a new dollar, and it better be backed by gold and silver, because if it isn't, it's going to be increasing the money supply, decreasing the purchasing power of any new currency you come out with that isn't backed by gold. It's going to do that because they'll print it and they'll keep going and they'll keep spending because they buy votes, because politicians are all spineless. Don't trust the banks. Don't trust the politicians. Gold and silver you can trust because they can't be printed. So it can never increase the supply of gold and silver. That's the beauty. So therefore, it'll never decrease the value. That's the whole key to it. Right. So if you understand that, it's fine. And you understand it's in everything. In football, there's no increase. You can't. There's only a few Joe Montanas and Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrows. There's not a lot of them. So when you find them, that's our bitch. That's who we bet on. But most of them are like C.J. Stroud in golf, and you just bet against them. In the big game against the big defense, they're not going to show up because they don't know how to read coverages, and they're just like everybody says golf's too slow. He's not too slow. He stinks, basically. He's never won a big game. And I don't consider beating Tampa Bay in the playoffs a few years ago a big game. They got lucky to beat Philadelphia because Philadelphia fell apart like they did last year. But when it got to the Niners, they couldn't. They choked. So certain players just can't handle the pressure. It's who they are. And Jared Goff's one of those guys. But you got to realize that. Why do you think the Rams let him go? He's 5 years younger than Stafford. And they realized once Todd Gurley went down that Goff couldn't do anything. And that's why you blitz him, and then he gets all flustered and he throws 5 picks, and they lose. They lost to fucking Minnesota with Brosmer. That's all I got to say. I mean, that's it right there. And that's what you look at. So we hope Mahomes makes a good recovery. We need to bet Mahomes. We need somebody to bet on, but we do know who we bet against. And then if C.J. Stroud just hands the ball off, we can bet Houston under every game. And that's the key. So watching these new coaches. So next year, there's 10 teams we can't even play because of the new coaches, right? And then Buffalo, Baltimore, we have no idea. So you got to watch at least the first 4 or 5 weeks for those teams. And we can get KC, and we can bet Cincinnati, and we can bet Green Bay, and certain teams we can bet on. Even the Lions, we can bet them. If they play a weak team, we'll bet them. If they play a strong team, we'll bet against them. They're always an over team because they have no defense. And so you learn the team, and then you bet it, but then you got to watch. So before we can learn the Giants and Baltimore and Buffalo, we have to watch. We don't know these teams because they got new coaches. So once we learn how the coach is and how they mess with the team, then we go like Seattle. They got the coach from Baltimore, and he's terrible last year. This year he was much better. They had a good defense. He was a good defensive coach. And now we go, now we can bet Seattle. They got a good coach. The Rams should be the team to beat next year because they're the best team, and they didn't make it to the Super Bowl. So they're going to be all upset this year. Our goal is the Super Bowl. Seattle will be a lot easier to beat because they won the Super Bowl. They're going to relax. So there's where the psychology comes in. Anyway, hope that helped. Any other questions? I do not have that card. I have a other Mantle card. I'm doing awesome. Thank you. I think you're asking how's our snow. We got an inch or two, not a lot. And that's it. So the U.S. beat Canada in hockey. I have no idea. I don't care. I can't name the guy Hughes. I have no idea. I know more of the guys from the Miracle team in 1980 than I know on the U.S. team because I don't even know who this Hughes guy is. I don't know who the goalie. I don't know any of the Canadians. I can't watch hockey. It's too boring, and there's not enough good players in it. So I don't know. And you can't even. When's it on TV? This is their problem. and I'll leave you with this, is all these Prime and Amazon and Apple and all these pay-per-view channels, is you don't see anything. And I'm predicting all these sports are going to go out soon, because when do you watch hockey? Where is it? There's no hockey night in Canada. There's no Don Cherry. When are you watching it? I don't know. Is it on tonight? Who knows? Oh, it's on Amazon Prime. Well, I don't have Amazon. I'm not going to watch it. This is the death trap of all these apps. If I got to pay for it, I'm not going to. I got to eat. I got to pay for food and energy and gas. I'm not paying for TV. I'm certainly not paying for the game. And then you've got football, at least is on regular TV, so that'll be around. Baseball, I think it's on Fox Saturday night or something. And I'm not watching the Tigers on whatever it's on. I'm not paying for that. You got to be kidding me. It should be free if you want me to watch it. I'm not paying to watch baseball. Basketball, it's like sports is gone for me except for football. And really football is because you bet it. Like Lawrence Taylor said, they're making it much more sissified. You can't hit the quarterback. And, there's no interest. It's like race car driving. The guy's going 220 miles an hour to win the Indy 500. Well, it's like now you can go 110 miles an hour. Like, nobody's going to watch it. Well, we want safety. No, then who cares? I can go on the highway and watch guys go 150 miles an hour. I will leave you with that. Time for lunch and then to the pool. Have a good day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. www.teaserking.com. And you can see my history, and then you can see my homepage. I think I'm going to change my intro video. I found a way to do that, and I want to kind of update it a little bit. It's 15 years old, and I think I'll do that. Anyway, have a good day. Enjoy, and go gold. Go. I don't think gold will hit 5,500 this week, but it will get there. And silver, I think we'll see it in the 90s soon. I don't see short. I think that whole big go up to 120 and go down to 70. I think that's over. I think now it's settled down, and now we'll see it slowly get into the 90s and gold get back to 5,500. By the end of March, I'm expecting maybe 5,700 gold and probably back to 100 in silver. So I think that's coming back. All right. Have a good day. Enjoy. And thanks for coming. And again, please feel free to ask questions. That's why I do it live with the comments. So www.teaserking.com. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. And I hope you learned and enjoyed.